Good afternoon, all of Navient's Rockstar customers. We appreciate it very much that you are in attendance today. We have two great presenters, and Mark Cianciola and Vic presenting on moving to the Highland Cloud. It's very important to Navient, as some of you know. We have a Navient Cloud Center of Excellence. I'm very appreciative of the conversations that we're having on moving to the cloud. So with that, Mark and Vic, I'll let you guys rock and roll, and thanks everyone for attending. We appreciate it very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tim. Great to see you. Great to talk to everybody on the line today. I just noticed our slide is dated yesterday, so I hope that doesn't throw anybody. I just realized I had a little bit of a typo there. But really pleased to be able to talk to you today. My name is Mark Cianciola. I'm the Senior Director of Cloud at Highland. And joining me is Vic Aichansey, Manager of our Cloud Operations and Experience. And collectively, we both have way many more years with Highland than I think from an age standpoint we'd like to admit. I've been with Highland going on 18 years. I've spent the vast majority of that time 17 of those years evangelizing the Highland Cloud, working with our very valued partners like Navient and their customers, as well as our customers overall, in bringing the value of the Highland Cloud to their operations and their organizations, and really helping them see what it is the cloud can do for them and the value that it can provide. So really excited to be here with you today. So we have a couple key points that we want to make sure we talk to today. So I want to make sure that we talk through the value proposition of the Highland Cloud, what that would mean for you in terms of migrating to the Highland Cloud, and really where across this continuum of benefits you would be able to see that value and then translate that value internally. And then, of course, work with Navient and work with Highland to periodically review where you are capturing that value. So we want to make sure that you look at the value propositions from your vantage point and what makes sense for your organization. We'll talk about the platform a little bit and how Highland has changed and evolved over the years. Just in the 18 years that I've been here, our growth has not only been along the lines of customers embracing the cloud, but it has been along the lines of adding applications and looking forward to Highland's next evolution of cloud services. So it really is an exciting time to be talking about cloud. At that point, I'll transfer it over to Vic, who will focus on the customer experience activities that Highland is engaging in to ensure an enviable experience for both our customers and the value add partners that they work with. And he'll share some advice and insight on how to best prepare for moving to the Highland Cloud, and what you can expect, and how we can make sure it is as seamless an experience as possible for you. Of course, leveraging the resources within Navient and making sure that you have our undivided attention to make sure that it is a positive experience and you reap those benefits in short order. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about the value proposition. And this really is different across all organizations. You know, in a previous life to Highland, I spent a good number of years in management consulting. And one of the things we talked with our clients about a lot was best practice. Organizations would ask, okay, well, what's the best practice in this particular area? We run into those same questions here when it comes to best practices, or as I like to say, leading practice, because there isn't any one best practice, there isn't any one best benefit or value that our customers are going to experience. It really depends on your particular organization and what makes the most sense for you. So when you look at not leading practices, but leading value propositions, you're going to see a mix. You'll see a continuum of what organizations are able to capture by moving to the cloud. Everything from hardware, storage, upgrade availability, all the way to security and audits. So it really does cover this wide spectrum. And it is incumbent upon the organization to determine, okay, where is this value for my organization, and how do we capture the value across each of these areas, rather than having Hyland or Navient say, this is where you're going to see this value. We know there's going to be value overall, but we want to make sure you, Navient's customers, understand and can articulate well where you're seeing that value. So when you look at hardware and software costs, there are some both direct and indirect values here. You can easily quantify based on the equipment and software for which you can avoid a capital expense. That's quantifiable. And then you can look at operationalizing access to significant processing capabilities, and that is a tangible value that can provide a very real return to the bottom line easily. Indirectly, you can take advantage of doing more than you're doing today with better access to the efficiencies and scalability made possible by leveraging a third-party provider for not only the hosting infrastructure, but the administration and the maintenance of that. So there are very real cost savings when it comes to hardware and software. By no means is this the only or the most obvious. There are a number of opportunities for organizations to look at outsizing just the infrastructure. So I certainly want to make clear that there's much more to the value proposition than that. Similarly related to hardware is the storage, and again, very direct costs and benefits that our organizations will see. The value here is the storage devices being administered and monitored by Hyland Resources, and really the flexibility with which organizations can scale their storage requirements as their business grows. That's of considerable value. So we offer a lot of flexibility in that area where you can manage your consumption and you can grow your storage as necessary. You're not looking at upfront capital costs to procure a ton of capacity because you may not know what that storage requirement might be. You can start out at with Hyland, you can start out with a consumption model of a terabyte, and you can procure additional storage thereafter in a way that makes sense and aligns with your business. That being said, we can certainly scale to accommodate even the largest of data stores. We can begin not only at the terabyte level, we have many enterprise organizations where frankly we've begun at the petabyte level, and we're adding and growing at the petabyte or hundreds of terabytes annually. So there's a tremendous amount of flexibility when it comes to the storage capabilities with the Hyland Cloud. When we talk about people and resource costs, people are absolutely a benefit. And this is sometimes a difficult conversation to have because we're not boasting the ability of a third-party hosted content services solution to impact headcount. That's not where that value proposition comes into play. It's really providing those resources with more time to dedicate to more value-add activities. And that's what we're seeing. Those are some of that's the commentary we see from our existing customers, that they're able to capture that time that, for example, a database engineer would spend managing the database, or storage admins, or network admins, or security admins. We're looking at recapturing some of the time that they would spend managing that infrastructure, managing that business process on-prem, and now the fact that that infrastructure is managed and maintenance by a third party, these resources are able to dedicate more time to more value-add activity, whether it is looking and exploring new uses of the application, new workflows, different integrations with other line of business applications, both in the cloud and on-prem. So that's where we're seeing that value. Upgrades, I think, are a very obvious answer because all of the upgrades of the infrastructure in the Hyland Cloud are performed by Hyland Cloud Resources. Yes, there is upgrade activity incumbent upon the end user, as well as services that Navient would be in a position to provide. For example, any custom code associated with the solution, or any updates to the, or any enhancements to the application as a result of that upgrade. But from an infrastructure standpoint and the heavy lifting of that infrastructure upgrade, that's performed on resources in the Hyland Cloud. The same goes for test systems and looking at what your requirements are from a non-production environment standpoint, whether it is for functional testing of the application or it is for user testing to ensure that it performs properly. Leveraging Hyland to provide those non-production environments is a big value add. Disaster recovery is just I hate the expression no-brainer, but it is very much a very in-your-face benefit because Hyland is taking that DR and business continuity, those activities on your behalf, making sure that the content is replicated multiple times, as well as ensuring that if there's an issue or an environmental incident, that our customers, Navient's customers, are back up and running within real RTO and RPO commitments. And that same goes from an incident response standpoint. A lot of customers don't recognize that their DR plan or their incident response plan might not be necessarily up to speed until they're actually in a position where they need to use it. We run into a number of situations where organizations didn't realize they didn't have what was necessary to keep their business operating in the face of a disaster. And that in and of itself drove them to the Hyland Cloud to remove that uncertainty, to remove that fear, and have Hyland take that on. And then the last piece here is security and audits. Because of the scale and the economies that Hyland is able to capture when it comes to how we manage security across every layer of the network, every layer of the solution, I should say, beginning at the physical controls of the data center, all the way through the layers down to the data layer where everything is encrypted in transit and at rest. We apply security controls that on-prem could be cost prohibitive. But because we're doing this for nearly 2,000 customers, we're able to stretch those capabilities and leverage those economies to make them available to our customers here in the Hyland Cloud. All of these benefits that I just talked through have very specific costs and cost avoidance with them. So working with Navient and working with Hyland, you can actually collaborate and identify what the fiscal benefit to your organization will be by moving to the cloud, taking into consideration how often you would normally upgrade your hardware, how often you have compliance and security audits that you would need to defend to your stakeholders and your constituents. By having Hyland do all of these as part of the SaaS solution, you're able to identify a very real benefit in terms of cost savings and cost avoidance. So I encourage you to work with your resources at Navient to go through this exercise and see what this might mean for your organization. But don't take our word for it. Hyland has worked with Forrester in the past to build a total economic impact of an organization moving to the cloud. And what we did was we built a composite organization based on characteristics of organizations in our cloud today. And we interviewed them, or I should say Forrester interviewed them to identify what the ROI they were seeing was, how quickly they were achieving this payback. So this is real quantifiable evidence that even though you're layering on costs for leveraging a SaaS provider, you're avoiding enough other costs that it's still a very valuable proposition to look at migrating to the Hyland Cloud. And when you look at migrating to the cloud, you really are in fantastic company. This is another study we commissioned, and really having been part of so many customers' journeys to the cloud over the last few years, it's not surprising to us that roughly 85% of customers are falling within that advanced and intermediate category when it comes to their cloud environment. Advanced from the standpoint that they're heavily using cloud infrastructure to optimize their operations, or they have multiple cloud projects and initiatives already in motion. whereas only 14% are still just developing strategies or looking at proofs of concept. This means that you have a better awareness of what cloud can do for you than you might have had years ago. In fact, you might have already seen cloud initiatives through to completion in areas like sales contact management, HR, finance. So as you explore the value of taking your content services to the solution of the cloud, you'll be better prepared to define that value to your internal stakeholders and do so articulately, confidently, and comprehensively, yielding more seamless adoption and frankly, a quicker ROI. Cloud spending, we know, was higher in 2022 and was anticipated to be higher even this year. I don't think this comes as any surprise to us. Organizations are actively looking to capture the savings associated with SaaS solutions because they understand the quantitative and the qualitative value of doing so. So, like I mentioned before, reallocating valuable resources to more value-add activities, to improving the availability of content in all areas of the organizations. Companies like yours are prepared to commit operational budgets to cloud initiatives, and content services is no exception. Most companies are implementing formal cloud strategies or have become digitally native, compared to just 3% who are still sitting it out or sitting on the sidelines considering cloud strategies. Again, this speaks to a better working knowledge internally of organizations just like yours. So gone are the days when delivery of a SOC 2 was all an organization was interested in seeing. Now organizations, and I encourage organizations like yours to go beyond that, to really explore in detail what it is you're capturing, the value you're capturing via comprehensive discussions around compliance and security. Work with Navient, work with Hyland to understand the value that you're seeing in that gap analysis that exists between what you're doing today and what you can be doing in the cloud moving forward. And then lastly, and I can say from firsthand experience that the last 18 months have seen a rapid acceleration of cloud initiatives. We've seen revenue from cloud solutions at Hyland increase at an increasing rate. Frankly, in some instances, the only thing that's outpacing the net new SaaS activity at Hyland is the frequency with which existing customers are migrating their solutions to the cloud. In fact, over the last few years, the number of on-prem customers moving to the Hyland cloud has nearly doubled year over year. And to support those customers, Vic will be getting into some details shortly around different things that we're putting into place to not only support our customers, but to really support Navient in their ability and their seamlessness with which they support you. That said, it's important to really understand how the platform at Hyland is evolving. Years ago, when I first started, we were OnBase, and we were OnBase in the cloud. And over the years, with cloud being so pervasive in the space, we've grown not only from an application standpoint through acquisitions by being able to offer multiple different applications in our cloud, but we've really extended to more open source capabilities with our acquisition of Alfresco and Nuxio, all as part of this evolution towards our next generation cloud, the Hyland Experience Platform, that I know Navient is regularly hearing updates on, that our customers are interested in hearing about. And along this evolution, we're still able to offer customers the ability to begin with a point solution, a departmental solution, or even an enterprise solution, because we have grown that platform and the resources at Hyland that are supporting that platform to really be all of these things to our different customer and partner opportunities. So this is a great way to sum up, again, the value that you'll be seeing from the Hyland Cloud, largely based on our new partnership with AWS. So we moved from a co-location type of data center within which we were storing our solutions or providing our solutions to leveraging AWS and working with AWS instances so we can move and evolve with AWS to the multiple offerings that AWS has for organizations storing the content in their cloud. So a proven platform between Hyland and AWS with the necessary audits and certifications from SOC 2 to ISO, PCI, and NIST. And again, the benefits that go hand in hand with operating solutions out of the cloud. And I'll really close with this visual. So it really is a visual of the value add of leveraging your content services solution in the Hyland Cloud relative to managing it on-prem, or even going to AWS on your own, which is certainly an option. Hyland's partnership with AWS means we're leveraging AWS, but the advantage there is we're leveraging the several hundred resources in cloud platform engineering to manage that infrastructure in AWS. So you see the line of demarcation here. On the left-hand side are the roles and responsibilities for organizations going with AWS directly, and on the right, it's the responsibilities, roles and responsibilities between Hyland and the customer and or partner managing the solution. So you'll see there's a big difference in the amount of activity that's performed by Hyland in the Hyland Cloud on the right there. So that is where I draw my time to an end. I'm going to pass it over to Vic as we speak to talk more about customer experience focus and really what you have in store for you moving to the cloud. So Vic, do you need to pick up? Do you want me to move your slides for you, or do you?
Yeah, if you want to just advance them. So thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going to just kind of touch on the customer experience, right, piece of moving. You know, a lot of you, I'm sure, have been long time on-base, you know, on-prem users, and so you're wondering, you know, what's different, right? In addition to realizing, you know, the benefits that Mark's spoken about, you know, what should we be preparing for as an organization, right? What changes from, you know, end user level, our admins and that kind of thing. So what we've done is we've started, you know, this larger push. Let's make sure that we're setting the expectations, and your experience is a good one right off the bat. So we have a ton of training and resources available, and we've worked closely with Navient to help build some of these things. So during this, you know, evaluation cycle, sales cycle, whatever it is, or just curiosity, we can provide, and you know, with Navient, of course, provide over like what changes, right? What's the difference, right? This is kind of an access matrix on what do I have access to, because I've maybe heard some other things, or we give some things up, and it's not really, in my opinion, a give up. It's more of a trade, right? You're trading your pager in it. If it goes off at 2 a.m. for us to handle that in exchange, you might have to tweak some of the way and some of the processes that you're doing business on-prem, but most of our customers will agree it's a net win, and allows you to focus on getting more value out of the existing implementation and finding new ways to and enhancements, and allowing Navient to help you assist with that and kind of build out to new business processes and things. So we can provide some additional resources that cover down on that as you're evaluating this. And then if we go to the next slide, you'll see, to Mark's point earlier, really a lot of our customers are realizing this, and we're seeing a larger push for migrations, right? How have we been year over year increasing them steadily? And really, you know, based on a lot of what Mark said earlier, it makes sense, right? You're taking advantage of our expertise and our scale and Navient's as well to let's get this, you know, offloaded from our infrastructure to Hyland's, so that we can collaboratively move forward to get more out of this. And part of the migration journey and process is where my team comes in. So should you decide to move forward and move to the cloud, you know, my group, the customer experience and operations group, has a dedicated partnership with Navient. So next slide, if you would, Mark, where we're in lockstep. We're meeting with them, you know, very regularly, and ensuring that should you go forward with migration, you have a point of contact that your Navient project team can leverage as part of this migration, right? Someone directly Hyland Cloud experience and focused on making sure that this project and your experience starts off on the right foot and we get things going. So dedicated for Navient, going to stay with the group throughout the project, and then make sure that we're providing any additional training and technical guidance that they would require, or that you would require as part of that that project. So a little extra support there for your project team with Navient, so we can ensure a seamless transition to our cloud from your on-premise solution. And it really, you know, dedicated point of contact here, but really it even starts before this, and starts with Mark's team, where they have pre-sales contacts. So they'll help review the solution with Navient and with you folks, and we kind of, you know, checklists and criteria and things to make sure that yes, it makes sense to move forward. We're evaluating, and so there's collaboration on the front end, and then my group is very closely aligned with Mark's, so we're handing it off seamlessly. Really, to start that one seamless transition from pre-sales all the way to you're live in our cloud, and can start off with your best foot forward. So project that we've or a program we've put in place over the years to help really lock that process in and have a good experience at Navient. Might be biased because I've started supporting them years ago. A great partner to choose to do this with. Next slide. And then, as part of this experience outside of our organizations, really the product itself, right? We're making a bunch of enhancements to OnBase, and we continue to have new releases every year, but really with a focus on some of the cloud first items like the web service publishing, where it's more cloud native, where you can publish changes without any interaction. We have a new admin console in 22 that allows you to go in to quickly make keyword changes, doc types, and some more basic admin functions all through a web portal without even having to go into the thick client or the configuration client, right? It's really a little faster and more seamless and a better experience. We allow some functionality within the cloud portal where, because we're hosting the infrastructure, right, you don't have access to it, but we allow different tools and things to make those activities available to you, or to your to your folks at Navient, so you can ensure that you're not losing out on any functionality there. And then continuing to evolve our cloud support and administration folks in the cloud platform engineering group, we've pivoted to a more ITSM and ITIL approach and are continuing to work towards increased visibility should an interaction between Hyland and Navient be required, providing some seamless pass-through where they can then keep you informed in what's going on. So a lot of things with that focus on, again, the experience of being hosted. And then I'm going to quickly touch on just a couple more things, really preparing you all for that next step. So I know I mentioned training resources on the front end, and this is where we touch on it on the back end, preparing you all for what to expect. And I think that having those expectations is another key to a good experience. So if you go to the next one, there's a few different ways that these kind of migrations go. If you're a more experienced admin, we can have different conversations where we're going to talk about, over the years, what you used to be able to, how you did it before, and just kind of the nuanced differences. But ultimately, the goal here is to provide that experience of being able to do everything you need to leverage your hosted solution like you would your on-premise one. And then if you're, a newer admin, let us take that kind of hosting burden off your plate, and then you could leverage potentially Navient for staff log and managed services to help really just, hey, we have OnBase and our end users love it, and you don't have to worry about it at all. So that's another great option that a lot of folks are taking advantage of, where just kind of set it, forget it, and let the folks at Navient really drive that home and help with the day-to-day and the enhancements and things like that. And then we have some training available on Hyland University if you want to continue to evolve as an administrator. We have a Hyland Cloud specific track now where you can take very cloud specific courses to ensure that you're getting the most out of your hosted solution, should you continue to administrate yourself and want to make sure you're taking advantage of all the features we have available to you. We do have a few considerations, and your folks can discuss this with either with your Navient resource or or one of our folks from Mark's team. So there's some design considerations to take advantage of, or to possibly adjust. And again, part of this is that we can provide you with some documentation on what would be altered or adjusted rather, and what you can expect from an administrative perspective. Mark, if you want to just go, we'll get you that. You can request the Hyland Cloud Matrix so you can see where the responsibilities may lie and how you can best support yourself. I know we're right at time.
We are right at time. I appreciate that, Vic. Tim, I appreciate the opportunity. And again, we hope that in this brief 30 minutes, we are able to crystallize in your mind the value proposition, the platform, the experience focus, and how you can best prepare for the cloud. I would absolutely encourage you to work with your resources at Navient to get my team engaged on the front end, and we will naturally transition to Vic's team once your migration is in motion. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to be talking with you and your resources at Navient soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending. We appreciate it.